Welcome back to our second video. We're going to do Article 28. There's a lot of information and a lot of it's very technical. I'm going to try to finish it in 5 minutes if I can. And then I'm going to require you to have to go back and do some work on your own to read this chapter. You can see in the introduction of Article 28 that there have been over 60 million abortions in the United States since it has been legalized. That number has actually gone down annually in the last few years, but there's still over 650,000 per year. The key question is, when does God imbue a soul into the breath of a baby? That's what's really, really important. So to define what an abortion is, it's a deliberate abortion is when there's an intentional killing or terminating of the fetus or embryo. Know those two terms. An embryo is in the first 8 to 10 weeks. A fetus is after 10 weeks. Various types of abortion, they're all gross and they all do kill. There's also a term called contraception, which is the process of stopping conception from happening. So usually in most typical cases, it would be either birth control or a condom causing that to happen. There's also a type of birth control called abortifacients, which in Latin means to stop or to abort to make an abortion happen. And so that allows conception, but does not allow implantation of that fertilized zygote. Direct abortions are the intentional causing of that to happen, as opposed to a indirect abortion, which, as you learned last year in morality, is when a person is attempting to have a medical procedure in some cases done, but a side effect of that procedure is that an abortion will happen. So that's when the principle of double effect happens. So, for instance, you might provide chemotherapy to a mother, but in the process, there'd be the termination of the baby. Another term you need to know is the zygote. So that's what the term right after conception, when those cells are exploding in growth. That embryo, remember, is a unique human being. It has its own blood type and does not share that blood type with the mother. Heart begins beating around 21 days. You can see some of the things at 18 to 20 weeks when it begins to feel pain. One of the arguments that pro-life people have to deal with is this whole notion of my uterus, my choice. And it's a great argument that a woman has a right to her own body. Of course she does. But the other issue, of course, is that we're not talking about her body. We're talking about a unique human being's body. That's the issue. There's other issues with fathers and the rights of fathers. Please read about that when you read this section, because that's another important point. When we talk about social structures, those are those things, values in society that are put in place to enable just things to happen. So a couple examples of that are adoption. So if a person can't care for a baby, they can adopt that baby out. There are many groups that help facilitate that. Obviously, raising our sexual morality is a way to not to prevent unwanted pregnancies from ever happening. And there's a group called Project Rachel, which deals with post-abortive, mostly women, but men and women, to provide counseling and healing sacramental cure for that. Other beginning of life issues are things called in vitro fertilization, which is done in a petri jar. Artificial insemination is when they take sperm and inject it into the woman to allow artificially cause fertilization to happen with that body. And surrogate motherhood is when another woman carries the fertilized ovum and usually gives that baby back to the original parents for a fee. Prenatal, there's a big issue with prenatal testing and prenatal diagnosis. I'm going to pick up there on our next video, so we will have a last video that will wrap this one up. Thank you.